What's up guys, I'm Sean. My 35s are rubbing my upper control arm. I'm running Stealth Custom Series 17 by 8.5 inch wheels, -10 offsets, and I'm running 315 7017s. So the wheels are almost flush with the fenders, which I like, but the downside is the 35s are so big that at full lock it rubs the upper control arm. You can't see it from here because the car is parked, but when I'm in reverse or if I'm moving at full lock, it does rub the upper control arms on both sides. On the passenger side, you can see where it rubbed the upper control arm, here and here at full lock. If I was running 34s or smaller inch tire, then it wouldn't rub my upper control arm. Or if I got a more aggressive offset, it probably wouldn't rub. But if my wheels are too aggressive with too much poke, then I'm gonna rub the cap mount or other places. So I went with a -10 offset, but the downside is it's a little bit closer to the upper control arm. Today I'm going to be installing these slip-on hub-centric wheel spacers. These are 10mm thick. These are made by BORA, also known as Motorsport Tech. And then I bought these extended wheel studs from wheeladapter.com. So these are 10mm slip-on hub-centric. I'm trying to go with the thinnest spacer as possible because I don't want the tires to stick out too much because I don't like the look, and then also it's probably going to rub other areas. So I'm hoping 10mm is going to work. Previously I tried 3mm, which didn't do anything. I borrowed these 1-inch spacers from my friend, but I didn't want to install these because, well, there's two of them bolted together. But the 1-inch spacers, 1 inch is going to poke too much. Plus, I didn't want to worry about torquing the 6 nuts to the truck and then torquing the 6 nuts to the wheels. People run this for years with no issues, but these bolt-on wheel spacers just has more potential areas of failure, whereas the slip-on wheel spacers with the extended lugs, it's going to be almost like factory. Here's the 10mm slip-on wheel spacer. It's hub-centric, it has the groove, and it has this lip. So this hub-centric lip is going to help center the wheel. So it took away 10mm of thread engagement. So of course if I slap on the wheel, there's not going to be enough thread to torque down the wheel. So if you're going to use a slip-on wheel spacer, you definitely want to run extended wheel lugs, studs. Here's your test fit with the spacer and these stock studs. You can see it's way too short. Definitely going to not be enough thread engagement. It's going to be a safety issue. Alright, now we're going to remove these studs. Remove the 12mm bracket holding the brake line hose. And now we got to remove the 17 brake caliper bracket bolt right there, and one down here. And we're going to remove this whole assembly and suspend it in the air. I'm using a bungee cord to suspend this, just so there's no pressure on the brake line. You can take this clip off or just leave it. If you know the thread pitch for that, you can screw in a bolt to force this rotor out. I'm going to tap it with a mallet. It's a 4-pound hammer. That's actually really easy to do. This one's out. 1. Do the same for the rest of them. All 6 studs are out. Super easy to remove. Comparing the two wheel studs, the factory one, if I measure it, the back of this about flush to the wheel bearing, it looks like it's about 0.75 inches longer, whereas advertised it says ½ inch longer. But measuring it out, it's about 0.75 inch longer. If the stud is too long, it can be a problem if you're running a close-in wheel lug nut, because it's going to jam the back of this before it actually gets tight. If you run open-in lug nuts, you'll probably be fine because it'll squeeze out. Now this has a cap on this, but it's a plastic cap, so it looks like a close-in, but this thing should pop out if it gets past this point. An option is to cut this down a little bit, but I don't want to do that. I have some fat, thick washers lying around. I'm going to use that with the OEM lug nut with my impact gun to install this. I bent this heat shield back and I hammered it just to get more clearance to slide this in. And if this was a little bit shorter, you probably don't have to hammer this back so much. I have a minor issue. If I use these thick fat washers, what happens is that it gets too close to the actual hub of the wheel bearing and it's gonna askew the stud. So to play it safe, I found a bigger nut that I'm gonna slide here. Slide that over, clears the hub. Definitely want to make sure that the stud is as straight as possible. Alright, this one's done. Nice and flush in the backside. Now I just have to do 5 more. All 6 studs have been installed. It's all nice and flush on the backside. So I just need to use pliers, bend this back, reinstall the brake rotor, and I check the back of that heat shield that we bent, and it's not rubbing the rotor, so it's all good. And slide the brake calipers back on, make sure that bent heat shield's not touching anything. Just have to torque everything down to spec. Torque the brake caliper bolts to 91 foot-pounds. Torque the brake hose bracket to 21 foot-pounds, and if you remove the ABS clip, reinstall it back there. After that, this side is pretty much done. I slid on the 10mm spacer. Install it nice and flush. Look how much thread is left now. This side is done. Now I just have to do the other side. Passenger side done. Straight for it, just like the driver's side. Now I just have to put everything back together. Everything's torqued down to spec. And I cleaned my upper control arm right here and right here, because that's where it rubbed on both sides. Even backing out my driveway at full lock it rubbed. So now having both sides clean, I'm going to drive around, back down my driveway at full lock, go for a test drive on the freeway, make sure everything is smooth and no issues. Just came back from a test drive, took it on the freeway, everything drove nice and smooth, 0 vibrations. So my wheels are 17 by 8.5, -10 offset, and with the 35s, it was fine going straight. It didn't rub the upper control arm. Even on most turns, it didn't rub the upper control arm. There's only an issue when I was doing full lock U-turns. So if I was doing a mall crawl with this setup, it would be perfectly fine. But my plan is to off-road it. So now with the 10mm spacer, now my wheels are basically -20mm. So I took it on the freeway, it drove nice and smooth, and then I found a dirt mound and I was coming down it doing a full lock U-turn, and so far so good, no rubbing. But the real test is when I take it off-road. Now if it still rubs off-road doing full lock turns, then I might have to go with a thicker wheel spacer. You saw how long the extended studs were, so I could actually probably go like 15mm or possibly even 20mm. But I don't want to go too big because I don't want the wheels to poke out too much. So for now, the -10mm works. I just have to take it off-road and do a real test. So that's how you change the wheel studs on a Tacoma. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.